Now, before we start this episode of Biz Audio, I'd like to give a big thank you to Peter Samios for this great interview. There was a lot of great stuff all about his time in Dubbo and, of course, his time with John Laws and Jonesy Amanda. Some great industry legends. And check out radiomastery.com.au. And there's some great stuff on there, some great material. You can always reach out to Peter. And without further ado, here's the great interview with Peter Samios. Welcome back to Biz Audio, and today we're joined by 4 times ACRA winner Peter Samios. Peter has worked on some of Australia's biggest programs, producing for national shows and alongside legends like the late John Laws, as well as Jonesy and Amanda, just to name a few. By the age of 30, he had already earned the 4 Australian Commercial Radio Awards, cementing his reputation as one of the industry's standout content creators and producers. It's my pleasure to welcome Peter to the podcast.
Thank you, Max. How good is this? Real privilege to be a guest on this amazing podcast of yours. So thank you for reaching out. Love it.
Oh, no, thanks for joining me. And of course, just starting off, what was it that first drew you to radio?
Well, funny enough, it wasn't radio which drew me to it. I mean, growing up, we always had the radio on everywhere, as families did in the 90s. My granddad, he actually would play John Laws. He was out in the country. He'd play him on 2AD to help grow his award-winning oversized tomatoes. So that was his secret. They'd all say, "Nick, how do you get the tomatoes so big?" John Laws's voice. Wow. And then driving to school, I mean, every day my mum would have the radio on religiously. She still does. Driving to school, listening to Alan Jones on 2UE, jumping out of the car just as Jim Angel would come on with the 8:30 news. Then growing up, it was my turn to choose the stations. So as a young boy, I'd be making little homes and shops in my bedroom. So I'd be locked in there, a bit of a loner, I suppose, as many of us can relate to, I think. But I'd have Martin Malloy on in the background, and then I'd go to bed listening to the late, great Stan Zemanek. So there was definitely variety of radio growing up that I was consuming. And that variety drew me further into it. So I'd be flicking between FM music stations and AM talkback, and any opportunity to get closer to radio, I was there. I mean, whether it was an OB for Wendy and Mooney at Today FM just up the road, or being part of the TUE focus group with Stuart Bocking, I had to get closer to the medium.
Wow, that's an awesome way to start. And of course, you've worked alongside legends like and icons like the late John Laws, and of course Jonesy and Amanda, as well as Richard Mercer. And what did you learn from each of them?
It's simple. I remember when I was doing work experience at Mix 106.5 with Nick McClure, she told me how every talent is different and they like things done in a different way. You know, she was saying certain announcers, they like their pens in a certain way and things like that. Now, with Jonesy and Amanda, like, what can I say? I was lucky enough to MC on stage with them at their $1 Million Riff breakfast while I was on the ARN street team. I was lucky enough to be their driver, taking them to one of their famous Jonesy and Amanda backyard jams on a Sunday. And they are just as funny, if not more funny, off air as they are on air.
Wow. And
that taught me just how important it is to be yourself, both on air and off air. It's easier said than done. Richard Mercer, like the love god, what a genius. I was his fill-in producer, so much of the prep for him was a bit different with him. It was done without him being present, so he would simply come in, deliver his magic. So the pressure was on as a fill-in producer to be across everything before it goes live. And can I just say, it's a real shame that show's still not on the air on any station these days. Like, talk about a point of difference. That guy just knew how to create one and own that category. And then, of course, there was the king, the late John Laws. You know, he reminded me of time and time again that he wrote the book on talkback radio. I worked with him in his later years at 2SM, and after listening to him for decades, and just like any other successful broadcaster, he's the same true gentleman off air as he is on air. Now, the one thing John taught me is to just tell it like it is. And if you don't know the answer, just don't make it up. I mean, that was an absolute career highlight, to be in the fortress with Lawsy, putting callers to air around the country, timing out, and just watching the king do his magic. I don't care what the haters say. Up until the finish line, that guy was the true king of radio, and there will never be another John Laws.
That's awesome. And honestly, of course, Lawsy, 2SM, and I think before that 2UE, and of course, do you think it's important to have that sort of integration? Producing, of course, is behind the scenes very often, but do you think it's important to have that sort of integration with working alongside the person on air and with the producers as well?
Definitely. Look, Peter Clay he's a great mentor of mine. One thing he taught me when I was working with Jono and Dano at ARN or for MCM back then, he said, what do you want to do? You want to be on air? Go in there. You want to be a producer? Stay out here. You want to go in admin? Go down there. And it's so true. Just pick what you want to do and just do it. Don't
Yeah.
waste the time of anyone. If you want to work alongside the talent, work alongside the talent and get to know them and be intentional with your time with them. But if you're just producing for the sake of, oh, I want to be on air one day and I'll just see how it goes, don't waste your time doing it. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of people out there that just do it, I think, for the stardom. They just think, oh, if I can get a gig with the country's biggest radio show, then wouldn't that be great experience? But you know, look, if you know what your end goal is to be, and for me, I knew my end goal. I just love content directing. I just wanted to be the boss of a radio station. So I knew that I needed to get a grasp of all aspects of radio. So yeah, for me, working with talent, that was definitely an eye-opener to how to lead talent because everyone's different. Everyone likes things a certain way, and you know it was a great exposure to be alongside those those giants of the industry. A huge privilege.
And by 30, you'd already won 4 ACRAs. And what do those awards mean to you personally?
Those I've got them right behind me. They're great door stoppers. Seriously though, look, it's unfortunate that not many people know or knew what the ACRAs are or were. So I'd have to keep explaining to people when you say you're 4 times ACRAs winner that like it's the Logies of radio. You know, you
Yeah.
have to explain it like that to people. But for me, it was a lot more personal, especially the fact I won 3 of those 4 in one night.
Wow.
And it was literally, I remember that night, it was literally 4 or so years earlier that ARN made me redundant and escorted me outside of the North
Oh,
Ride studios.
oh
It was their
gosh.
first of many redundancies to cater for K&J's incoming. And look, I dedicated 4 years, 4 hard years to ARN. I'd even laid the carpet down where my network promotions desk sat on. So, I
Wow.
mean, would you believe I even knew where the master key was for that North Ride studio? So,
Oh.
not many knew that, but I did. So every time I'd walk up that evening to collect another ACRA, I just couldn't help myself. I gave a cheeky little point to Kieran and the ARN tables. I just couldn't help myself. Um, so, but it was later that evening that I got approached by a high up at the network who actually said to me, "Geez, Peter, it looks like we got rid of the wrong person." so, so that brought some nice closure to that chapter of my career. But now look, as anyone who's been recognised with an award in any industry, not just radio, the feeling is phenomenal. To know that you're an industry leader, it's truly an honour that you just don't take lightly.
Yeah, of course. And of course, the ACRAs were, if people listening that don't know, the ACRAs were cancelled earlier. I believe it was last year. They're not happening this year anymore. But of course, the Australian Audio Awards are taking place in the next few months. Do you think that's sort of important for people to be able to voice and showcase their work?
Absolutely. Putting yourself on the national stage. Look, there's 2 elements to an ACRA or to an audio award. The one is the achievement that comes with it, you know, that you can just brag and say I'm an award winner. But really what it is, it's to highlight amongst your peers the hard work that each and every one of us has done. Now, it's not just about being a finalist, it's not just about winning. I think everyone should enter because you are exposing your great skills to the judges. And look who the judges are for the audio awards. They are industry pioneers, leaders, people that have great connections. And if you can get in front of them, I mean, it's hard enough to get in front of them any day, but if you can do that by entering your best of the best material, why the bloody hell aren't you doing that? So I suggest everyone should enter. And look, I won 4 ACRAs, but I lost count how many times I was a finalist. and definitely lost count of how many times I wasn't finalist. So
Yeah.
you do have to be in it to win it.
And how important is authenticity in today's radio landscape?
Authenticity, it's always been vital. Radio is intimate. Even in a group environment, you truly are broadcasting to the individual. Now, mind you, you don't just have to be authentic when announcing. This is important. Your product has to be authentic as well. So you need to stand for something. Don't try to be the station for all listeners. Don't mislead what you are delivering. From announcing to programming to promotions, I believe each of those aspects needs to be authentically delivered. And you know what? Authenticity and transparency with the audience, it always wins. It's what took us to number one in Dubbo. My breakfast announcer, one half of the breakfast team, Jules Jarry, she is phenomenal. She's the queen of authenticity. She was always her real self on air, and that made the listeners feel that they were a true friend of hers.
And speaking more on even regional as well, because of course, regional breakfast duos and any sort of shift in regional, it has to connect with listeners more than metro. Of course, do you think it's important for regional duos to have that sort of connection off air as well?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. We had such strict policies that were, I suppose, gentlemen's or ladies' agreements that we would, if you weren't mentally switched on, because the team would say to me, it's like an escape room. You're stuck with each other for 3 hours straight, sometimes 4 hours for some shows. If you do not get on with that person, if they are your worst enemy and you're sitting in a soundproof studio with microphones that go live to tens of thousands of listeners each day, if you don't have your A game on, you can't be there. And our policy was, let us know by 9 p.m. the night before. It does not matter what the reason. I don't care. As they all call it, the bat phone. You know, we'd have the morning's announcer on backup, but we'd need to know by 9 p.m. the night before if you're just not with it. And I don't care. We did sweat the small stuff. I don't care if it was. I had a bit of a run-in with the co-host. Can I just give me a day or two to get over it? Great. You know what? Take your time. Let's just make sure that it is the best possible product going to air at all times. So absolutely, chemistry with your co-host. If it's not there, look, the best part is in a regional centre, there's pubs everywhere. Just go to the pub, have a beer with them. In Dubbo, we used to go to the Amaroo. They had the 650 Schnitty on a Wednesday night. We'd all go there. I was new to town, even though, yes, I came in as their content director. Uh, we'd go out Saturday nights till bloody 3 in the morning, seeing Savage and Joel Fletcher and all that on stage. It was great. We really bonded together outside. And yes, I'll be first to admit it was forced at the start. But if you don't make that forced effort, you will never build that chemistry with your co-host or with your team. So you do need to make that effort.
And what are some of the biggest mistakes you see in that you see new announcers make?
Yeah, well, look, apart from not authentically always being themselves on air, that's probably the first thing. But look, I wouldn't say it's the announcers making the mistake. I think it's their lack of leadership and mentorship making the mistake. Every announcer needs someone, they need a mentor that they can reach out to for thorough feedback and guidance. Now, never be a new announcer, whether it be radio or podcast, going it alone. You always need a mentor who has done it before to show you the proven techniques you require for your skill set, because you can't nail it first go. You can't nail it second go. Don't think I'll just fluke it, I'll just wing it. It never ever works. Always get a mentor in your life.
And of course, you've seen radio evolve massively. And what do you think's changed the most since you started?
A lot. um, Look, apart from networking and rebranding, and I've been at stations where both of those things have happened.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think has changed the most is what I call the optimization of radio. Networks won't rest until they can literally program an entire national network from one announcer with one computer in one major metro market. Now, Robin Bailey, she perfectly put it last year as culling season. It happens each year.
Yeah.
The roles are continuously being deleted and amalgamated. So, look, in my opinion, the only way to survive the culling season is to absolutely ensure that you are multi-skilled. Learn how to do videos, learn how to be king or queen of socials, learn how to manage the station's digital presence. Just do more, be more, do more, learn more. And that way you will future-proof your career in radio.
And speaking more on AI and artificial intelligence, how do you think AI affects radio and audio today?
Yeah, good old AI. Where has that not popped its head up? Uh, Look, 10 years ago, we were asking the same question about podcasting. Now, in my opinion, radio is bulletproof when it comes to most new technologies. But just like many industries being impacted by AI, radio too is going to evolve and further integrate AI into its systems rather than compete with it. Now, I can see AI delivering up to the minute news bulletins, traffic reports. I think it's already doing weather in many markets, but it'll most definitely continue to take jobs off the announcers and other departments. However, you still need that human involvement to oversee any AI replacement. We saw how many stuff ups last year in 2025. I mean, did you hear CADA when they had their
Oh,
AI
yep.
announcer?
Yeah. Sorry, the
I,
AI announcer.
yeah, I don't think anyone was air checking that before it'd go to air. The levels were everywhere, the accents were everywhere. You need human involvement. But, yeah, like with the new technology, all new technologies, it does mean that AI is going to replace some roles. We've already seen it and we'll see it into the future. But I don't see AI completely destroying the radio industry anytime too soon. So, look, it's not too late to have a go behind the mic.
And in an age of podcasting, social media, and of course AI, how do you think radio stays relevant?
Yeah, look, AI, it's evolving at an extremely rapid pace, so it's unclear to see how long it'll take for it to really make a move on the industry. But ultimately, I believe the impact of AI in the radio industry lies with the major networks and their bottom lines. So as long as the network makes profit, then the announcers keep their jobs. And that was seen when I was in Dubbo 10 years ago. We had 12 staff on site at the one station. Today, there's probably less than 5 in that building.
Wow.
As for podcasts and social media, let's face it, which young announcer in this country doesn't know how to upload a podcast or shoot or edit a reel for social media? In this age, the term radio announcer, I mean, it means so much more than just turning on a mic. Announcers and stations need a multi-layered approach to broadcasting, or else they'll be gobbled up with listeners choosing other platforms outside of radio for consumption. It's always been a battle of mediums. So you can no longer just do a shift and simply back announce music. I mean, it has to be so much more than that these days.
And what skills do you think matter most now on a digital or personal branding?
Yeah. Look, with you would have seen from my online presence,
Yep.
personal branding massive these days. I
Yep.
wish it was as relevant 10 years ago as it is today. I'd strongly recommend, if there's one thing I want everyone to do after listening to this podcast, ensure that you have a solid personal brand with a professional digital presence. Just remember, radio, it's no longer just audio. Your P1s, they've got way more opportunities to get closer to their favorite announcers, and everybody needs to leverage off this. So get yourself a personal brand online, be consistent with that personal brand, and make it look, I mean, try and make it look as professional as you can. I know you're not graphic designers or video editors, but just do your best. But you do definitely need a personal brand these days in radio.
And during your time in radio, you've taken Star FM slash Hit 93.5 in Dubbo to number one, and which was the first in its history. Tell us a bit more behind that and how you accomplished it.
Yeah, look, if I can be honest, that survey, the first survey we had when I was CD at SCA Dubbo, sorry, I just dropped the mic. It wasn't as good. 2DU beat us, and that gave us more hunger to defeat them in the next survey, and we did. I mean, I really have my GM at the time, Darren Inglis, to thank for his amazing leadership style during my time in Dubbo. It was like he threw the keys to the station to me and he said, here you go, make us money, don't get us in trouble, and make us number one. And
Wow.
I did all three. Um, from that point, Darren never micromanaged me. He truly allowed me to have the creative freedom of that station. And look, the strategy was simple. I've got a background in marketing and advertising, and having worked closely with the agency and direct sales team at ARN, I understood the concept of what elements we could amplify and make new opportunities for listeners in Dubbo. Now, what I mean is my strategy was to fill every possible spot there was to fill at that station. We ran on-air tactics, on-air network tactics, on-air local tactics, brekkie tactics. We increased the value of pricing for regular breakfast benchmarks. We ran mornings and afternoon specific tactics, anything to drive TSL and make noise in the market. I mean, we were the most local commercial radio station in town, so we used it to our advantage. But I mean, as for programming, we knew when survey was coming up, as they always do. So I had the Brekkie team hold off on certain story arcs for content. I we placed it strategically in the lead up to the survey period, and I mean we went through everything with a fine tooth comb. Then there was the online, the on ground elements. The station was running at 5,000% capacity. And
Wow.
what was best was the GM loved it because everything was sponsored. Clients were immersed. It was phenomenal, a great vibe. And then when we found out we hit number one, I mean, it was like I still remember that moment. It was like Sydney winning the rights to the 2000 Olympics. The the GM Darren and I, we jumped and hugged it out. I mean, it was such an accomplishment. Because Star FM or Hit 93.5, it was always seen as the new kid on the block in Dubbo, and we finally made our mark. And don't worry, as any CD would do, imaging changed immediately to mention the number one. It was a non-negotiable. Every talk break, every mic break had to say number one. I think we kept that going for like the next 3 years until the next survey. So,
Wow.
no, it was great.
And would you say that hitting number one was your most memorable moment in Dubbo?
Oh, in Dubbo, it was definitely memorable in terms of, I suppose, from that perspective. That was something, a bit of an achievement there. But, I think that the most memorable moment I personally had in Dubbo, I was actually covering the Brekkie show. This was a few years later. And I think it was 8:45. I was going there till 9. And a salesperson came up and knocked on the door and they said, "Hey, listen, a car's just gone into the building at the Service New South Wales building down the road."
Oh,
And I thought, well, crap, I'm the only one on air. It was just me. They just rocked up. Like, no one gets to the station till 9 o'clock.
yeah.
So, as anyone with, half a bit of hunger for radio, I just quickly voice tracked a few breaks, got in the station car, headed down to the scene. No producer, no news journo, just me. Took a photo of the scene, found out some info from some locals, smashed it out on our socials, came back to the station, broke the story on air, and I then went to Flashlog after. I still beat the competitors at getting it on air first.
Wow.
So talk about a multi-skill set. And yeah, this was a CHR More Music breakfast shift. So it goes to show if you've got the skills, if you've got the hunger, there's absolutely nothing holding you back from being a market leader.
And what do you think separates award-winning radio from just good radio?
Look, don't let your ego get in the way. Once you become award-winning or number one, I think for me, coming from Sydney, I've grown up in Sydney and going to a regional centre, I was fortunate to bring with me a lot of the metro skills to Dubbo. And this was beneficial for the listeners who got a polished sounding station hundreds of kilometres from Sydney. Even though our market was rarely surveyed, I treated that station like we were always in survey
Yep.
with continuous station and brekkie tactics across all platforms. The thing for me is we rarely did we ever let that station just be. We were constantly in survey mode, rolling tactics, always active.
Wow. And
Yeah,
is there any one piece of content you've created slash produced that you're most proud of?
absolutely. The one for me that sticks out, I know we keep going back to Dubbo, but I had a blast there.
Yeah.
Um, it was definitely our Star FM's Bring the Logies to Dubbo campaign. This went absolutely gangbusters. I don't know if you were in the industry at the time, or probably looking about 10 years ago or something like that. There was a time when the Logies were, I think they were leaving Melbourne and they were unsure where they were going to. And from memory, I think it was entertainment reporter Peter Ford. He put a tweet out saying, or made the suggestion about taking it to Dubbo. And I still remember my workday announcer Joel Scousey. He found that tweet. He mentioned it. He mentioned it to me, and the rest was history.
Wow.
We scaled the hell out of that campaign. It truly owned Dubbo, and I think the highlight was I even heard the opposition Brecky show at Zoo FM made mention of it. Not even mentioning, obviously not mentioning Star FM.
Yep.
But the moment I was most proud of, apart from the national TV and media and international coverage it got, it was when the network CDs at SEA congratulated us on the movement. I mean, it was definitely not just me. It was the entire Dubbo content team. We had everyone on board. We had that one goal in mind. It was just to make the thing huge. And it really united our team closer than ever. And it built a great out to win culture as a result. So it was definitely a team effort with that Logies campaign. And to me, the winning formula, if anyone wants to know why it was winning, it was simple because we did win an ACRA for it. It's because Australians love getting behind an underdog story. You see it at the Fox in Melbourne with their underdogs. It goes to show, even if even if you feel that your station needs to fit a mold of a network model,
Yep.
there's still always an opportunity to dominate your market at a local level. And that's what we did there with the Bring the Logies to Dubbo campaign.
What's some advice you'd give to someone who's young and wants to break into radio?
Yeah, easy. Cut your teeth into community radio first. That's the strongest bit of advice. I started at Eastside Radio in 2009. I then went on to volunteer at almost every Sydney community radio station there is.
Wow.
I did everything from admin, paperwork, reception, all that before getting behind the mic. Now, and I covered every shift on air as well, exposing me to the different listening patterns, the different times of the day. What it made me do by going to community radio, it made me value the importance you have and the privilege you're given to broadcast to an audience. I think people that just come in and just go straight on to commercial radio behind the mic, they don't always understand that. They don't always value that.
Yep. And how do you think your mindset changed as you moved from volunteer community radio roles to national programs?
Yeah, look, to be honest, my mindset didn't change. It doesn't matter if you're doing the midnight to dawn on community radio, or if you're helping to put to air the most listened to radio program in the nation's history. You've always got to be on 100%. You never know who's listening, and I can tell you now, I actually got calls from station board members at midnight at the community station
Wow.
complimenting me on my program. So just like radio, you should never switch off, no matter what the program is that you're producing or putting to air.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for this interview. Of course, everyone listening can check out radiomastery.com.au, Peter's radio coaching service, and please follow his Instagram at Radio Mastery and at Peter Samios Official.
Thank you so much, Max. It's been an absolute honor being on this podcast. I'm expecting it to go viral.
Thank you so much.